Okay, let's call this meeting to order. We'll go off with a roll call.
Herrera Wasik,
I'm here.
Schneider,
Here.
Bastos,
Here.
Larson.
Here. So we do have a quorum. We'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance. I guess I'll start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I guess first agenda item, we have a minute approval from last month's meeting. I don't know who's had a chance to look at them. They can look them over real quick and make a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the Architectural Review Board meeting held on July 18th, 2018.
I got a motion
I second.
and a second. Any discussion of corrections that might need to be made before we put up for vote? Okay, let's put it up for vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody abstaining? No? You don't want to abstain? Okay. Just thought you might since you didn't attend the meeting and you weren't familiar with it, so. Okay, let's move on to the next agenda item, citizens' time. This is a chance for citizens who are not here to defend a COA to get up and, I guess, give us any feedback or concerns they have with anything that's happening within the town in association with the ARB. Okay. Means we'll move on to the certificate of appropriateness. First one is for Kiwi Place.
Well, I'll talk about that. So Jackie Walker cannot be here tonight. This is one additional picture that goes with it. This is where the stairs will be located at this back door. It's currently fenced off. She's provided all of the necessary materials in her packet. She came to us previously and was working on a front patio step addition there on the front of the house, so she's working on the back, same colors. She's gonna do a dark Winchester gray. You'll see this on page 6. If you flip to page 10, you'll see this along with the picture I just handed out. Very small portion is gonna come out from the house and then just several steps down into the yard, so she can access the yard from the back door. Pretty straightforward. All of the colors, everything is within our guidelines. Questions?
Has HOA approval already gone through for this?
It is on page
Yeah, I thought I remembered seeing that.
11 and page 12. She has her HOA approval.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve ZP number 2018-037.
Second the motion.
Okay, I got a motion and second. Last chance for discussion. Anybody? Okay, we'll put it up for vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good to go. Okay, next agenda item, Foster's Grill.
So again, Mike Cerny was not able to make it this evening. He is putting an application for patio lighting, very similar to some of the other restaurants here in town that have the string lighting with the globes that hang down. If you look at page 18, this is the style of lighting that goes up that he's proposing. If you look at page 19, he's proposing to take the lights from this brick section under here across over to this section. He just wants to add some of this patio lighting, do a little bit of the ambiance. He gave me this article that he also kind of got the idea from, so, just trying to lighten up the space at night, but not too much, just something subtle. Is there any specific questions on it that I can try to answer?
So the lights are going to be going diagonally?
So looking at it, they're gonna be going, yes, diagonally from the corner on the left of the photo over to this area. So it's a slight angle, but not a very sharp. It wouldn't make like a 90-degree triangle with the balcony portion of it.
Extends underneath the second floor as well?
Yes.
Okay, under the eave.
I don't really understand how it's going to.
Yeah, I don't either. I was talking to Emily about that this morning. It almost sounded like they were going to put a post in the corner of the common area where the fenced-in area is, like extend it up. It sounded like that to me, and that they were going to put some type of, I guess, wiring structure where that post would hold it and then attach it to the building.
Because I
In the
like
corner.
this picture that he provided. I almost think that he would need to add,
The picture on page 20?
mhm,
Okay.
like he would need to add poles here, Emily, like to have it like coming straight so that it's this way.
Comes out that way, rather than going
Yeah.
horizontal across, okay?
But I do like the idea of the lights, and I think it would look pretty. I just don't know, I don't think that would look right, going from the balcony over to the archway.
Yeah, and also, to anchor these underneath the balcony, I think that would kind of obstruct, I guess, what was here. I would really like to see it extend from the face of the original building, so the anchors to actually be within this structure here. I don't know if I can really show you, but actually, in this structure here, as opposed to tying underneath and attaching to the brick wall,
Okay.
because I think that kind of wouldn't look like it's an extension of the building. It would look kind of retrofitted being attached to the wall. I don't know if you would agree or not. Because, you know, you are looking at a pretty deep recess area here, because this is the extension of the walkway above. So
The
you're
only
looking at a
thing-
good 6 feet.
Yeah. The only thing is that the cords and the hooks would probably stand out more on that white than they would against the brick. Like if you look at the picture of the, here, that's the only thing. It might look, I'm thinking it might look a little messy if it's on the white part.
You know if he's going to use reinforcing wire to attach to kind of build the frame out of wire and then attach the electrical wires to it, you understand what I'm saying? Usually you have some sort of tension wire to hold it up.
Yes, the cable guide wire is extra support for the string lights and is commercial grade, and the lights would be controlled by focus sensor. He wrote a letter to you guys on page 17. So yes, he would have guide wires that would create that frame
Page 15.
and run the
Page 15.
light strings along that.
Yeah, he also talks about it being 3 guide wires, so are you just going to have those 3 guide wires and then the wires strung between the 3 to support them? Or, you know, is the lights only going to be on the guide wires, so that there would only be 3 rows or 3, I think that's what the description was in the letter. In the letter and the
There'll be 3
description.
cable runs that the lights will be attached to.
Yeah.
He also mentions, someone talked earlier about a column. So right now, it seems like he has 3 corners. 2 corners are under the eave, that outdoor patio. He has that fenced-in patio. So the only place you're missing a column is on that outside corner of the patio. Does that make sense? You have the elevator shaft, you have the second floor, so you're going to have 3 fixed points. Now you're going to need a 4th point, that column. So it sounds like to your earlier point, Bon, that he's trying to do, perpendicular or parallel to the second floor. I don't particularly have issue with it. I would just, some sort of combination of maintenance. Where these look bad is where all the light bulbs start going out. So,
Yeah, well, I'm sure you'd want to keep those up. I
Yeah.
mean, appearance is one of the first things, or curb appeal, to draw people into your establishment, right?
yep.
I like the idea, I just don't feel we have a good enough description here to try and vote on this, and vote on something that we feel we understand.
Do you think it would be helpful if he drew like an overhead diagram of how the lights are going to be strung? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and plus, the wire, because, if you have the support wires, and then you're only going to be attaching the wires between it, then you end up having a crisscross of the electrical as well as the support. And, to get an understanding on what that's actually going to be would give us a better understanding of what we're looking at.
Yeah.
You know what
I
I mean?
fully support the lighting. I think we just need to have a more
better
detailed understanding
better
of the
description
plan.
on what's going on. I agree.
See the column as well, the additional
Yeah.
one, make sure that it matches.
Yeah, like, I didn't know what they were going to do with the column, if they were just going to extend one of the corners of the gated area or not, or what they were going to actually do.
Yeah, I assumed it would be
Yeah,
right
this
here at the
corner
outside
right here.
corner.
Yeah.
So I think, it sounds like the argument is, since he wants it to be a permanent sort of fixture, that we have I agree, we need to,
We need a better
a better
description.
understanding of the layout, perhaps like a diagram of the anchor points and how the lights will be strung. And he mentions in his letter other places in town. I think there's 2 other spots that I'm aware of in town. Most of those, yeah, and then I think over here,
Oh, yeah.
those tend to be kind of be seasonal or kind of temporary.
The other
So-
thing I was thinking is it would almost, and I don't know, what do you guys think? Would it make more sense to have the 2 columns with the lights just in that area instead of attaching to that additional wall?
I was thinking
Freestanding
about
almost?
that, but I do think if it is a permanent structure, it would be a more solid design to attach it to that brick
True.
piece coming out, so that you only have that one, because, depending on what kind of tension you have there, this, since it's going to be kind of like freestanding, the only supports it's really going to have is a fence, they're probably going to have problems with that pole wanting to lean in,
Yeah.
so,
Okay.
I think it's fine being attached to the building.
yeah.
And I just want to add one thing. Mike did want to put this application before the board because he wants it to be a permanent thing. He wants it to be year-round, whereas I think the other 2 businesses do it on a temporary basis,
Seasonal
therefore they
basis.
didn't get the approval. I would also, we were kind of discussing how it's going to be attached. I would make a comment in there to verify that he's not going to zip tie the lights to the cables and then leave a 12-inch tail on the zip tie. Another business in town has done that, so let's put that condition in there. I know curb appeal, but I think that would be something that would be helpful in that sense.
We'll
Yeah.
table
Fasteners
it
be-
for,
Yeah, we'll table it for now, but, I'd like to walk through it and actually see, because, like I said, if we have these lights that have to string under, or the wires to string under it attached to this, but this might be kind of interesting looking, so to speak. So if you walk by that area, keep that in mind when you look up there and see. And we can discuss it more when we do reopen this. So I think we got an agreement to table this until we get more information. Is that right?
yes.
It's okay to direct with the diagram? Consensus for that? Okay.
Mhm.
Diagram with the anchor points and the
Yes.
the layout of the lights. Okay.
And to see what the column is. I'm sure he's probably thinking the black, but I just want to make sure.
I agree. Is that enough information for you to relay back?
He said diagram of the layout, color of the column.
Mm-hmm.
And the anchor points.
And I guess, yeah, the diagram, the layout diagram to include the guy wire as well as the electrical wire, so that we see if they're crisscrossing or if they're lining up to it.
Okay.
Knowing Mr. Cerny, if you could thank him for taking the time to put the materials together in support of his idea.
Yes.
Okay. I guess I need a motion for tabling this.
I make a motion to table ZP number 2018-038
For the next meeting.
until our next meeting.
Okay, I got a motion
I'll second.
and a second. Last chance for discussion. Okay, we'll put up for vote. All in favor of tabling this till next meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're good to go. Okay, we'll move on to the item 3, veteran banners.
Good evening, Board.
Welcome.
Good evening.
So, compared to last week, or last meeting, I have a lot more information. I was able to contact with the vendors, and I have a pretty good idea of what we have in store. So, as you guys see on the first page of the packet, we got 3 front designs that we could pick from. And I found out that we could do the front the same, like front and back the same, if they would so choose. Or they could do, like, or we could also go with the 2 back that they have as well.
So we can either have double-sided, or we can have one of the sample packs.
Correct.
Cool.
Found out the cost of the banners is $59 for the picture on one side, or if we do the double, it would be $69. And it'll take about like 1 to 2 weeks for them to create it and ship in. They usually send them like sets of like 10. And pretty much the deadline to get all the banners in, if we want to be done by November 1st, is October 15th. Is for the last orders to be shipped in.
I think I would prefer to have the picture on both sides. That way, either way you're driving, you get to see the veteran. It's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Either that or you got to separate them and crisscross the facings of them. But we do have Town of Haymarket honoring on the samples on the picture side too, so it kind of leaves the backside not necessary.
Yeah.
It would be easier to split those two up if we wanted to put other information on the fronts, but
Justin, do you mind telling me the dates again that we would have to have them turned into you by?
We'll have to need all the final ones turned in by October 15th.
Okay.
But they would prefer to have the order shipped in as soon as possible rather than all at once.
Okay.
Because if it's shipped in all at once, it takes longer to
Okay.
produce.
And then you said it was about 2 weeks for the turnaround time, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's if they can do it in a phased fashion. So if we can get them about 20 orders at a time, they can start working on that. If they get more than that, it's just gonna be a backlog.
Okay.
Justin, can we change the color of the font? Do you know?
I do not know, but
Okay.
I would assume we probably could.
The only reason I'm asking is because I feel like the white stands out a little bit more than the yellow, but I like the sample 2, like the actual design of the flag. I like the font better.
Just a notice, number 2, on each sample, the first one, it's the family, the sponsoring group of the banner. The second one, it has the VFW post. And then the third one, I guess, is just a generic reference. Are we expecting the VFW post to support all these, or?
I have not been able to contact them yet, but I'm looking to get into contact with them very shortly.
Okay,
Is that just an example then? So it could be like the family that sponsors it, or, okay.
okay. So we don't need to necessarily, okay. I guess the other challenge you're going to have is you have to get a critical mass of participants before you can make the order.
Yeah.
You have to get all the summaries, the photographs, and all their stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they would prefer that the pictures would be sent in high resolution JPEG or high resolution PDF.
I'm assuming that'll be your compilation of stuff, right? Or are we putting together we're not putting together the flyers?
I don't think we would be.
We're actually working with the vendor to supply flyers.
But like the pictures and the information on each person?
That would come down to between Justin and staff to.
Okay. Okay. I guess our discussions, I kind of like sample 1 strictly because I can see what his accolade, what the person's accolades are on where he served, and you kind of got their emblem of what corps they were in, whether it be Army or Navy, Marine Corps. You know, the other one, you can see it's there, but God, I can almost barely see it on this picture. I don't know how it'll be on the banner, especially if you're driving through town at 25.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I kind of am leaning towards sample 1. I don't know what your opinion is, Marshawn, since you are a military man, if you would like to see your colors on it.
See my mug going through town?
See your mug as well as your colors, depending on how true you are to your...
So here, the way I envision this happening is with all those signs in town. Right now, we do flags every other pole, or are we still doing it every pole?
Flags are every pole and banners are every pole now as well.
Okay. So first I was thinking if we have the flag, we have a banner, flag, if we don't have a critical mass. On sample 1, you have the flag as well, so is that kind of over redundant? I think of the 3, this has the largest lettering for the veteran versus the other 2. And I agree with you, it's more. So I'm thinking if I'm driving in a car 25 miles an hour, hopefully 25 miles an hour, that this would be the most distinguishing, you know, that it focuses on who it is we're trying to do. Town of Haymarket is an element, but obviously we're in Haymarket. And then the flexibility of using the sponsoring person, I think of those. I originally was going to go with sample 2 with what Bob was looking at, but in terms of just the font size, and maybe that's where you're going with the font size and other text, I think number 1 does the best job of bringing forward that information.
I think they're all great, so I'm fine with that. Do you have an opinion about that?
Yes, I am leaning towards sample 3, but the lettering, color, it could be better. It's very simple, and since we are having the flags of the United States in every other flagpole, this will be more pleasing to the eye and easier to read. But yes, the font underneath it, honoring Thomas Bradford, and it says U.S. Army Air Corps, and the year he serves, and he's a Purple Heart. That should be highlighted, you know, more, the bold font.
Is there a font on one of the other samples that you prefer?
Actually, the sample 1, that font is very nice.
What about this? So on I was originally going to go with, I looked at number 3 as well. What if we flip the font sizes, switch the Bradford to the, shift everything up, drop the honoring our military font to the font size of what Thomas Bradford is on that, move the picture up, and make the Thomas A. Bradford text the larger font size. Does that make sense?
Yes,
So it brings the name forward and kind of
yes.
step back. Does that make sense what I'm saying, Justin?
Yes.
Just switch the font sizes of the two and then move everything up. What do you think of that?
The only thing I'm nervous about is, are these set? Like, is it set in stone where they're just kind of inputting the information, or,
It's not set in stone.
so you can adjust
Yes.
the colors and the fonts? Okay. I feel like the yellow could be changed to white then, because I feel like the white just pops more.
I do agree.
Justin, what do you think?
I actually kind of prefer the first one. I just kind of like how it pops and just everything about it in general.
So maybe change on sample 1, all of the yellow to white, except for obviously the metal, not the metal, but the seal of what the branch is.
I kind of like the yellow stars, though,
Oh,
to
you
break
do?
up the Thomas Bradford from his accolades.
Okay.
Purple Heart, where he served, time he served and stuff.
So the town of Haymarket honors, and then the Bradford family changed that to white.
I'd like to kind of make another suggestion.
Sure.
What if I like Julia's point about simplicity. So what if we, Justin, you think it's possible on sample 1 just to take the flag backdrop off? That should simplify it a little bit. And then keep everything else the same.
Keep in mind that you will have a flag, and then this banner, and then the flag, and then this banner, and the flag.
We're nitpicking this. Sorry, Justin. Everyone has an opinion on this.
Depending on which light poles they go on and how many we have in the first iteration, we do have some light poles that have the 2 banner arms still. So the banner could go on the back one, the flag would be then out. But we don't have that on all of them, so it would not be consistent. It would only be the ones, the older poles in the main town core.
So it sounds like the general consensus is sample 1 with some revisions.
I'm fine with that. Honestly, they all, even if we couldn't change and I had to pick one, I would be fine with that too. So it's up to you guys. But I definitely would like to have it on both sides. That I would prefer.
Yeah, my only concern is just the blue placard. If we take the flag off and it stays blue behind it, I don't know how that would pop. You know what I'm saying?
And that's fine. I think they said after the first year, these get returned to the families, right? So, if we do this again, then if we notice it doesn't do what it's intended, we can just switch to a different vendor if we need to, or switch to a different
Layout.
layout.
Can we change the bottom yellow to white? I just think it would stand out more.
I think so.
The family part.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you think that the town of Haymarket honors stands out enough? You do?
I think it does.
Okay.
I like the contrast just because it focuses on the name rather than
Okay.
the town.
and I'm good with that. I guess, what is our consensus on removing the flag?
I think it can stay.
Reverse my earlier decision, I'm fine with it.
I am fine with it.
Okay. So we're kind of in agreement that sample one with the sponsor being in a white colored font as opposed to the yellow
And double-sided.
and double-sided. Okay. Is there a COA on this, or is
There is, it is on page 21.
anyone? Okay.
I did not have a motion for you. I can give you a motion if you'd like.
I don't think one's
Okay.
needed.
Okay. I make a motion to approve ZP number 2018-039. We would like to use sample one, changing the bottom sponsorship font color from yellow to white, and using sample one on both sides of the flag.
Okay, I got a motion. Any second?
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Last chance for any type of discussion. Put it up for vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
I hope that takes you to the
Thank
next step.
you.
Justin, thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny, good picture.
Yeah.
From 20 years ago?
Got rid of. Yeah, that's right, 20 years. Get the
20 years
skinnier
ago.
face and
70
everything
pounds
else,
later.
right? Okay, I'm going to wipe these out, and then we'll go to amend the schedule with the last one, okay? So I guess we got an amendment to ZP 2018, 22, 23, and 24.
21, 22, 23. But yes.
Okay,
So Dominic is here. He is the applicant with Piedmont Group Custom Homes. He's doing the 3 single-family homes here on Fayette Street behind Town Hall. And they took it to Planning Commission, the site plans, and requested a landscape buffer waiver to include a fence that will help screen the residential properties from the commercial properties here along Jefferson Street. So he has attached some proposals in here, but I'm going to let him kind of speak on exactly where the fence is going to go and the materials.
Good evening. So the fence is going to, we're facing the property, the 3 lots. The fence is going to start on the left side about midway. And then it's going to go and follow the rear of the property the entire way. Then it's going to come down the right side, come all the way to there. And it'll be a board-on-board fence. Wanted to do this because it's right up against the commercial area, and to do something that's a little more see-through. I don't think families probably prefer that as much, butting up to commercial. Small children or dogs or whatever. So it creates that sort of screening, which is the purpose for it, fence. So the board-on-board, you're familiar with it because there's a lot of it in town. So you'll have a board on the back side, board on the front side. So it's actually aesthetically pleasing for both sides. And there'll also be some landscaping in front of it on the residential side.
I think one is a single family where Bond's pointing. The next one's the vacant lot that borders Jefferson, and then the next one down is the Victorian, not a Victorian house, it's a gift shop.
Details for the home.
Details for the home.
yeah.
Oh, I see, The orange highlight on this blueprint, it's all in the fence?
Yes, so I just highlighted, in orange, what's highlighted there is what he just said, is where the fence will go. So it starts midway, right here, goes halfway down, all along the back, and then it does that kind of jag on the far corner, and then it comes back up the other side of the property. So I'll just kind of say one of my concerns with it, the home that's here, so if you're looking at the plat, the home that's on the right-hand side, it already has a fence coming from Fayette Street down, and I'm just concerned that with these three homes, it's gonna make it kind of a compound yard. It almost makes it like one uniform yard. There's no delineation between the middle, aside from these property boundaries that are not seen. So I would recommend that if the fence isn't gonna go around each individual property, then maybe it only goes on the back side of the property lines, and maybe it only goes on the very small portion on the right-hand side that touches Copper Cricket.
Yeah, because I was going to say, on the left-hand side, that's not commercial, is it?
No,
That's
that's another
residential?
residential home that's tucked back there.
Yeah.
And that portion of that property is actually, the homeowner has an easement for his driveway, which is actually on somebody else's property, so it's just a driveway right there.
So you're saying on the right side, just come down, abutting the commercial section?
Yes, only on the Copper Crickets side. So there's already a existing fence there, so it would be what you replace.
Right. I'd be fine with that, I mean, to just basically border and screen the commercial area, and then let the homeowners, once they move in, if they want to do it in a closed yard, they come in for another application.
Yeah, and I think that's good. And what were you saying about, I guess, a waiver for the shrubbery or the buffer, the buffer?
The requirements for the zoning ordinance is a 25-foot transparent screen between a residential property and a B1 property.
Mhm.
So what they've proposed instead is to do a 10-foot modification. So they'll have the privacy fence between the residential and the commercial, and then they'll have 4 canopy trees in front of that inside the residence yard that'll grow up and screen at a higher level.
Okay, because a lot of times when we do allow privacy fences board on board like this, there's usually some type of buffering on the fence structure itself by, allowing some type of planting to go between them. Right now, we don't know what's happening with the commercial side, right? It's just open space, right? Which leaves me a little hesitant to just want to throw this fence up so that when you are coming down Jefferson Street, you look over and you just kind of like see this fence in the distance. Like I said, with Longstreet Commons, we allowed that border because we knew there were going to be some type of vegetation to break it up and grow on top of it.
Long Street of it was grandfathered. I mean, they were built in the 80s, predating, and so the guidelines talk about exceptions
Yeah.
for existing board-on-board.
Exactly, but when they put the privacy to try and barrier off 66 before they did the improvements.
Oh, that was at Alexander's Keep.
Yeah, Alexander's Keep.
That was meant as a temporary until the sound wall came up.
And I think some concerns with that approach would be, they're not gonna have an HOA, it's just 3 lots, so if the fence comes in and vegetation goes in between the business property and the fence, who's to maintain? Is that gonna be strict enough that the resident will go back behind the fence and do it? Another concern I would have, if there wasn't a fence there and you're driving down Jefferson Street and you look over until the homeowner put a fence up, you would just be looking into their backyard in the back of their home. So there's 2 sides to it. You would see the fence, but does that provide them privacy in their backyard, or is it up to them, the homeowner, to come in and get that?
See, they're gonna put a fence in, there's no doubt about it. Homeowner's if I was living there, I would not be there where you could just walk right out onto a commercial area. So, one way or another, they're gonna put a fence in, and I wanna pay for it. And it's also gonna help me with sales.
I was going to ask you, is this a way to
Oh, this-
better position the lots to be sold by having that screening already in place?
Absolutely. I mean, I do it in different homes, just trying to look what is the best product for the homeowner as far as, you know, who might be interested in buying it. Talking about when they go ahead and develop the commercial section, they gotta go in with their plans also, and they gotta say what they're gonna do. There might be some sort of requirement from the commercial side that they gotta provide finally.
Buffer for
But in
noise and everything
actuality,
else,
I'm
yeah.
already gonna have a board that's a finished look on the commercial side, which I'd rather not pay for. I'd rather do flat board, but I was told that really that's kind of being frowned on. So the property right.
We're on board.
Board on board, brown.
So board on board is, you have a board on one side.
No, I
and a board
understand.
on the other side.
I think it's, I think
Is
you,
where you just have a flat board butted together on one side, and you're seeing the horizontal 2x4s on the other side. So for example, on Fayette Street, or actually in your backyard right here, that's a flat board. So it looks good on one side, but on the other side, it has horizontal 2x4s, which I didn't want to do that necessarily. I thought about it for a second. I think I called Emily about it. But then I would want to do the border on board coming down if we were going to continue on Fayette to the right side of the property, right to Fayette. I'd want to do that board on board, otherwise you drive up and see 2x4s.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm proposing is that it's going to look good on the commercial side, actually probably better than it does now. When the commercial side goes for their permits and plans, they're going to have to come up with some plan. And in the meantime, we help out these buyers who are going to want to put a fence in. They would have to pay for it all, and now I'd be paying for it.
We definitely wouldn't allow them to put up privacy fence, so it'd be something else that meets up with it, right?
Between the houses? Yes.
Like a picket or,
It could be similar in style, but a 4-foot. So if you remember, one of the homes we did on
Stockade.
Flight Drive had a combination of a 6 and a 4 that you
Yeah.
guys approved. It could be something like that.
Or else like a gap stockade, which is in my neighborhood. There's, one of our neighbors has a gap stockade.
Sherwood Forest has got a lot of fences that are up that are various. I guess if I may make a couple of comments or questions. First of all, this looks like a smaller board, like a 4-inch board versus a 6-inch board. Were you intending to do smaller slats and closer together?
I think they're the 4-inch board, which is
Okay.
about 3.5.
Okay,
Um,
maybe I'm thinking of a 6-inch board.
But you don't see through it unless you actually
Yeah.
come right next to it. You might just see a little bit through there.
Yeah, diagonal.
So to me, I'm sorry, thank you for answering.
But, you know, it might be a 6-inch board, which would be 5.5 actual tree dimension.
So looking at your location, the fact that you're having to separate future commercial from residential, to me, a true board on board, you still see through it. Light cars turning are going to go through it. Even by these pictures, you can see. So if the idea is we're trying to separate, create a true barrier between the commercial and the residential, I don't know that a standard board on board would have that effect, that opaqueness. A board on board fence that has smaller slats and that are closer together reduces sort of that angled transparency. I agree with you that, this way hides the framework from both sides, but at a closer distance, I think would overcome the ability of light to move through and people walking along and be able to see in. I'm just thinking, when commercial goes there in the future, you're going to have those turning lights that are going to be coming through that.
Well, I think you'll always have, cars riding on Fayette Street.
Yeah.
everywhere. You'll always have-
I'm thinking more on the Jefferson side,
Yeah.
people driving through.
Yeah, but I think most of it's going to be heading that way. I mean, if there was a street that was actually pointing towards their backyard, that might be, but that's just.
I think when the site future develops,
Yeah.
when the commercial comes in at some point in the future, then, I can guarantee you they're going to credit your fence to meet their landscaping requirement. But having those turning movements in there, you're not going to get that true opacity that you would have. I think the woman that has the fence behind us here, I think that does a good job. It's a residential against B1. Garcia has some of his fence against our B1.
Like a flat board.
But you're showing the framing, right? And that's what you're trying to avoid?
But that's on the commercial side. So
Okay.
when they do their plan, then they can attach to it or do another fence themselves.
But to your point, you're going to look at it from Jefferson, you're going to basically see the framework from
That's why I think the
Jefferson.
board on board. The
Yeah.
light you're seeing and seeing through it, it's
Yep.
only really when you walk up to it, like that's a close picture, for example. If we can go right now and go to board on board, if we were looking at it 4 feet away or 20 feet away, you're not really seeing, you actually have to get up so that you can see on the side of it. And again, it's a screening, but we're not talking about making it totally blocked out.
So,
It's really
yeah.
so that if you're in the backyard, you have kids, you have a pet or whatever,
Mhm.
you're not looking and actually seeing. So if somebody's on the commercial side, they really can't look into your backyard so easily and say, oh, there's a kid running around, or there's a dog or whatever. That's what
Just a
we're trying to
boundary.
really, I think that's what families really are looking for, is some sort of privacy. I won't call it 100% screening.
So I'm agreeing with you, but just looking into, rather than the standard
Yeah.
distance between board on board, which most of them, it's a pretty sizable gap. Maybe at either a smaller slat or a smaller distance between, like right now, I think it's 4 inches, 4-inch slat, this 4-inch gap, 4-inch slat, 4-inch gap. So I'm thinking if it's a smaller gap between the boards on either side, still do the board on board, but just a smaller gap between, you'll create a little more opacity, but still have some of the ability to look through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand from a
I'm kinda
standpoint
speaking
of
for the group.
Cost and also how they do it. So if this is the width of the board, whether it's a 1x4 or 1x6, they basically line it up. So the only distance between it is the thickness of that 2x4, which is 1.5 inches. So it comes on here, so you do see that there. By making it smaller or larger, I don't think we're gonna get away with actually less. It'll cost more for them to deviate, just like if we said, well, let's make it all flat board, but then you say, on the commercial side, I don't want to lift 3 2x4s, so why don't we do flat board on that side? That's a lot more. So flat board actually, both sides is a lot more. But I'm not necessarily sure we're gonna eliminate some of the light if I do a bigger board or a lesser wider board. You're still gonna have that gap between this. It's being nailed on one side to a 2x4. Unless I spend more and say, guess what, you gotta overlap that 2x4 a little more, but then you're still gonna.
I'm agreeing with you, just,
And the other
I
part
just
of it-
asked about the 4-inch here. This looks like a smaller size board, that's the only reason why I asked you on that, yeah. So, I'm just thinking that a smaller gap between the boards on the same side will lessen the, so you see here, this looks like a smaller board, right? Right now, because that opposite board on the other side, you can see through that gap. If I reduce the distance between here and here, I'm not gonna see that as much if I offset it on the other side. That's all I'm suggesting, so, I'm sorry to dominate that. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I don't know what the standards are for this type of thing, because when I did it in my townhouse complex, it was, I did 4 and 3, 4 and 3, so that there was a little overlap, but there was still enough.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think those are the same size. I think they're
Okay.
probably 1x4. So you just make it a little closer.
That's all I'm suggesting, whether it's a 6-inch board or a 4-inch board, just a smaller gap than your standard gap, and that would.
So that there is just a little bit of an overlap on the edge, so that it doesn't make it as,
Does it make sense what I'm saying
Transparent.
here? Like, right now, you can kind of see right through.
I do, but I
Yeah.
think it's like,
the
it's
way
probably
for the
making it like
future.
too complicated for me.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to just make like a boundary between the home and the commercial. For me, like Emily said, I think like having it behind the houses is fine with me, and if it's needed on that one corner, but not along the other residential, just because I think it might break up the two neighborhoods instead of like making it kind of like streamlined.
Now, another thing, if you deviate from the standard way these fence companies do this, then I'm wondering if it looks a little different than the other board on board fences in the Haymarket, in the town. I mean, conceptually, it would look the same. I mean, it would be nicer if, again, for light, I don't necessarily know that I'm trying to, or even a homeowner's trying to do away with, more light. I think it's really just from a distance, just having the screen. And that was the purpose of this application.
And may I add one thing? The zoning ordinance requires a transparent screen, not an opaque screen. So having that little bit of light, helps with
Just
being able to see through, I guess, if you needed to.
yeah, something.
Yeah, I think the standard's probably good enough.
Standard
Uh,
practice?
Yeah, standard practice, because there is usually an overlap. It's usually, like I said, a 4-3, 4-3 is, I think, standard.
Okay, I live in Long Street Commons, I have board-on-board fence. And when I'm standing in my backyard, my neighbor walks his trash can on the outside, I can see him. And it's due to the fact that it's almost an equal ratio of plank width to gap, plank width to gap. So I think in a lesser gap, you're going to reduce the visibility, transparency coming through. So I agree with everything you're trying to do, just knowing because it is commercial, because it is on Jefferson, and what may be potential, I think that's there. Board on board in town, I think the ordinance, the guidelines specifically say against it, I think.
So we would be
But we do
making
have a
an
lot of
exception.
examples, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm thinking, if you improve upon it, maybe that overcomes the current design guideline restriction.
So, may I just ask, I'm trying to better understand your point of view, Marchant. On page 24, I felt like this was a pretty straight on look. Is that spacing not half?
Yeah, see, that
size of the
ratio is a little
board?
bit different from the board.
It almost looks like it's,
Mhm.
for, lack of a fraction, 4-2, 4-2, 4.
That's why I asked, I normally don't see board on board, that
That
board
looks-
width,
Okay.
no, that width of that board. Most of the board on board along Street Commons is like 6 inches.
And truly, I think this is standard here. I think just what you got was kind of a skip.
Old school?
Yeah.
That was the 80s. It could have just been, a difference in fencing
Okay.
technique.
The reason why I ask is it seems like here it does a better job of because you're right, to your point, you're right up on the fence when you're looking in versus from a distance. So maybe I'm just not appreciating the graphics that you submitted. So if it's truly like this, then I think I would agree it's fine.
Okay. So not to beat a dead horse any longer,
Sorry about that.
I do
We
want to
know that this was
clarify what we've kind of discussed, though, and the discussion really is, we're only going to, right now, we're in agreement that it's only going to follow the commercial line. So this left board, or this left line is going to be removed because this is all residents. And then we'll let the residents decide how they want to do that.
I agree.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's going to be like you said, a compound.
Yeah.
And also, too, to your point of cost, I think if you put up those other sides and you're out there clearing dirt, someone's going to hit it with a bobcat or something else.
So do we just approve the amendment and then specify the location? Okay.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve amendment ZP, Emily, I'm following it on here, is this right? Number 2018-022?
It should say, I'm sorry,
2123.
212223.
Okay. I make a motion to approve amendment ZP number 2018-021, number 2018-022, and ZP number 2018-0, I'm sorry,
23.
thank you, -023. With the specification that we are approving the fence that is between Fayette and Jefferson and behind the town of Haymarket property line. Is that specific enough?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you provide the fence style and the color and the height for me as well?
Yes. The fence will be board-on-board fencing that is, let's see,
Feet tall,
6 feet tall and
natural.
natural.
Thank you.
Okay, I got a motion?
Julia, you want?
I motion.
You second?
Motion, the below of the fence, yes.
You second it?
Do
You
I-
second the motion?
Yeah, I second the motion.
Okay. We got a motion and second. Last chance for discussions. Okay, we'll put it for vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? There you go. Sorry for dragging it out.
Thank you.
You can flip ahead in your packet to page
Yeah, we gotta go far.
61. So this is the Tesla application that we had before us last meeting. And I gave a brief recap here in your staff report. We asked the applicant to go back and look at doing additional landscaping, buffering around the charging stations. So I provided a packet of pictures for you. On the very front, it is the 4 plants that they have proposed. So a picture so you can see them kind of in context. Most of the pictures I tried to show their maximum size. I also tried to show it in relation to another plant or something so you could really get an idea of the sizing of it. And then in the rest of the packet, the previous representative came and spoke about Gaithersburg and how they landscaped it, so those pictures are in there for you as well. And tonight we have with us a new representative, so.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Justin Langham from Tesla Motors.
Welcome.
Is that your Tesla outside?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, it's not mine, but I'm driving it.
Nice perk. So, Mr. Chairman, I think the best representation of this is on page packet 82. Where it shows the modified landscaping that we talked about in the last meeting. What I found upon an improvement is the additional vegetation, kind of at higher variations of heights.
Would you like me to go through the symbols there for you so you know which ones are placed where?
Sure.
Or are you guys able to,
I was able to understand that when I reviewed the packet before.
just in case I'll go through them.
Oh,
Needed the
okay.
big
If that's
packet to
okay.
be able to read it, though.
Sure.
So, if you look at the ones that kind of look at either side of the diagram, they're in groupings of 3. There's an inner circle and an outer kind of almost flower petal look. That's going to be your gold flame cyperia. Coming in, the next 3 that are like tiny gears, they have the jagged edges. Those will be your dense holly. They are going to have the medium height, the 4 foot. And then if you look at the front section, there's a grouping of 6. Those are going to be boxwood, 24 inches in height. The largest circles in there that have all the wedges, that is going to be the Nellie Stevenson's holly. Nellie Stevens holly.
What I like about this over what we talked about last month, Bon, was the Leland cypress, you can't trim them. If you top them, they won't fill out. So I think what's nice about these is we can get them as high and low as you want, and you can trim them back and they'll still look healthy. So it'll take a while for these to fill in.
Yeah,
But-
the Gaithersburg pictures, how long have this vegetation been in there, do you know?
Sir, those were planted February of this year, so roughly 6-7 months now.
Okay, so the bushes aren't matured yet, right? Because my concern is, I want to try and at least get the bases of them touching each other, or maybe squishing in a little bit, so, because as you can see, I'm assuming we are going to keep the taper on them. We do at least try to keep the first half, up to about 3 or 4 feet, kind of tightly.
Yeah, I see it growing as a hedge, so that the first 3 feet would be like a hedge eventually when it grows out. And then the holly behind it will be at that, so it kind of tears it up.
Your tip,
Yeah. This is just, usually most of these, and that's a container size, right? So when you have like a 6-inch container size, 8-inch container size. So you would just, if we're concerned about it taking maturity faster, maybe just asking for a,
Because like the dense hollies, what did we say those were going to be, 2 feet,
Dense holly will end up being 4 feet.
4 feet tall?
The Stevens holly's 7 foot, the other two will be 24 inches height, as a minimum. So as Marchant was addressing, you would just request a certain caliber of plant to be planted. Depending when it's planted, I really think that once a growing season or two happens, so they could start to fill out and look really nice, even with the
Those
smaller
golden,
ones.
they're only going to be 2 feet. So these Stevens hollies are going to be pretty much our full coverage on the face.
in the street, yeah.
So, yeah, we want to make sure that they stay tight. I don't know what the mature width of them is or anything like that.
So part of it is if you plant them densely from the beginning, survivability becomes an issue. They grow into each
Right.
other and you can't.
Right, well, yeah, you want to take the mature width and at least make sure that you're planting so there is a little bit of overlap on the mature width, so that they do intertwine and kind of make kind of like a hedge at the base.
An opaque screen. So
Is that?
traffic lights go through it. Sorry I belabored that conversation.
But you know what I'm saying? And that's the only difficulty I have with seeing the layouts with the pictures, is I don't know what the maturity widths are, but I just want to make note that we
I
need to be
agree.
aware of the maturity widths and to make sure that there is a little bit of overlapping with that maturity width. And
Try to make them a little bit closer together and more
Yeah.
dense.
yeah, so you can kind of see it, because I think I have a Stevens holly on my corner, and then I have some boxwood, and you can kind of see how they mate together, and they are overlapping. So you do have kind of like, at least on my landscape, you have kind of like a castle look where you have your tower on the corner. And so that's a kind of idea we want to get here, where we're getting those melted, so we do got some type of at least 4-foot coverage with the tips coming out.
Does it say the planting height of the evergreens?
If you
Yeah.
flip to 83, you have the planting details that you would normally see in site plan. It also has the,
So the Stevens holly would be 7 feet, planted at 7 feet. That's good.
Yeah, oh, you on that?
This is
It's easier-
L1.
Easier to read.
And
Yeah,
the
Stevens would be 7.
Stevens holly is the, what's the symbol for that one? IN. So those along Washington Street would be planted at 7 feet minimum height.
Yeah, and these are the golden ones, which are only going to be 2 feet. So we got to make sure that these at least mesh together so that it's kind of blending in up to at least 4 feet. Because these are all going to be 6 feet tall, so we definitely want to at least cut off the base of them, so to speak.
Do we have any, so right now they do a good job of kind of wrapping it around the corner, but this is going to kind of be a lesser one, so you're going to be able to see it from the corner. Do we have a particular issue with that?
Sure, we might want to add those wrapping around there.
Make sense what we're saying, Emily? So right now I'm sorry, we're talking as if you're not here. I don't mean to do that.
Yes, sir, not at all.
So the hollies kind of, the 7-foot hollies kind of go around the corner into the entrance, but they don't wrap around this side. So I guess if you're turning at the intersection, and these are 6-foot high cabinets, and these are planted at 24 inches, as soon as you put them in, you're going to start seeing that angle.
Yeah, these will only be 4 feet, so you're only looking at 4 feet. So you will have, if these are 6 feet, these boxes, you'll have 2 feet hanging above them, and there will be never anything will be growing to cover them up, like the points of these right here.
So I think maybe wrapping that holly around
Yeah.
the western corner. Any idea why the landscape architect was picking that?
well, I'd like to just interject. I think they designed it this way based on the comments that you guys made last month,
Okay.
because remember they proposed it to go all the way around, and then you guys said that would kind of make it boxy and it would just totally screen it. I think that's why they didn't wrap it around that corner.
Entirely?
Is because
Okay.
that was what they took back from the meeting.
Oh.
I think we should wrap it, though. I'm worried that when you're driving in, you're gonna see it too much. That's the only thing I would add, is just adding those taller trees around that corner.
So the left side where the three little ones are, you're
Mhm.
saying pull it around.
Yeah,
There.
just,
Replace the dense holly. Well,
or
how high
not
does the
even
dense holly?
replace, just
That's the
shift
only
it
dense holly-
over.
No, the dense hollies we have
It's
here
a
too.
4-foot height minimum.
I would just shift that over and add the taller trees in addition to that.
When you say over, can you,
Shift it
Well,
over
let me reposition
to
myself.
the
So
west.
4 feet's the height. If the dense hollies are gonna grow, maybe I'm reversing myself. So the dense hollies will be more, I guess by their name, are dense.
yes.
Planted at 4 feet, they're probably gonna grow in excess of 6 feet.
Yeah,
So
because
this
it's a
is
4
the-
feet minimum,
Yeah,
so
this is
yeah.
the minimum size here that is provided, so 4-foot height minimum.
So
So
I-
when they're planted, I don't have the Gaithersburg pictures, but
They get bushy.
it should be pretty tall when it's planted in, and then with a growing season or two, it may.
So I take my earlier statement back, Bond. I think that actually
Yeah.
works, has the opposite. I think it works the opposite, that in a dense holly, that might be a denser material than where you're saying, I was suggesting maybe replace those, or you're suggesting maybe just carry that around and keep all
Yeah,
three?
I'm thinking to keep all three, and the reason why I think that with the taller trees is because I'm thinking about seeing that, and not just the boxes that are there as you're driving in, but also the other boxes behind it. So I'm thinking if you have the taller trees, the Stevens hollies, that'll actually block those more as you're driving in.
So when you say scoop the three,
I'll show you.
okay.
While they're looking at that, could we ask you another question?
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you, wait for the benefit of.
Yeah, I would like to see.
Gentlemen,
these
frankly, our goal is
here,
to, create the most aesthetically pleasing design we possibly can, so.
Oh, it's a great improvement. Thank you for
certainly
taking the
defer
time.
to your feedback.
Yeah.
The equipment that it covers is generally the size of a commercial refrigerator, so that being said, it's not going to be completely enclosed when they're initially planted, but.
Yeah, you're gonna have to take some time to grow in.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm really appreciative of the time you put into it. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I was thinking it would be nice to have this wrap at least to right here and leave this gap open for them. That at least tries to enclose it a little bit
I
more,
gotcha.
but not look like a full box. Plus, they need access to this anyways. But yeah, I think maybe just right around like 2 or 3 right in here.
Well, looking at it again, now that I see the dense holly here and the dense holly here,
Yeah.
that's gonna, it looks like a denser leaf pattern. So that's gonna block that pretty clearly.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Where's is that?
this is strictly from,
Yeah,
the
so-
sheets being here, looking in.
I'm sorry, your first name again?
Justin.
Justin, was there a kind of a rationale for leaving the side that faces the parking lot that's totally exposed? Are you guys okay with
That would be more just from an access standpoint for
Okay.
maintenance in the event that we needed to get in there for any kind of service or maintenance.
Does it make sense to maybe narrow that gap just a little bit? I guess we're thinking people are going to be naturally, it's like a attractive nuisance. You know, people are going to say, oh, what's all that? They're going to start walking in there and messing around.
We would need roughly the size of an entry door. I think if you would prefer to plan
don't think
additional
we need it that
landscaping.
I mean, just like a hedge that just creates a barrier. So I was talking, what do you guys think about? So last time, I think they were responsible, I agree with Emily, is that they were just kind of doing this boxed-in compound. Now they've created some variation, some height variation, and they do a better job of hiding it in plain sight. I didn't realize how tall this green thing was gonna be based on this. But narrowing, right now, you're just gonna have this open space. If you're parked in here, you're gonna be able to see into the guts of the facility. So would it make sense to wrap around and just create a smaller gap to get access to the compound?
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking like something at least right here. That might be a good enough gap. It'll
Maybe
still be
just,
totally visible, and I'm sure we'll still have people complaining, but
And maybe not the,
compromise needed here.
maybe not the Stevens holly, but just the dense
The
hollies.
dense
maybe?
hollies. And I don't think we really need depth behind here, right? Or
I
did you want
would.
depth? You
I
still
think
want
it would
depth?
look nice. Mhm. I like the variation of the landscaping. I think it'll be pretty.
Yeah, definitely, whatever the golden, the gold flames with the dense hollies, that'll definitely keep a nice color change as well as depth.
So that's what's here and here, just maybe
Yeah.
have them carry that across the front.
Yeah, carry it right here, I don't think we even need to go.
Emily too.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. That might be tight. It all depends on where this is,
We're
but
saying
I was,
moving this out here.
Yeah.
Adding these in addition, that way it blocks as much as we can of that.
yeah.
I like that.
And then
And-
of
and I
course,
was
bringing
thinking,
this in
uh,
here as well.
Yeah, I was thinking of,
What do you think?
right there, about that distance, nothing more than just leaving that for a gap.
Depending on what
Yeah.
maintenance, things like that would need to be done, I think I'm okay with leaving that other space open. Because if they have to back up a equipment truck and work on anything, I don't know.
He
the
said,
road back-
I think he said that they just need the door with,
Just an entryway, that's really all we need.
yeah,
Entryway, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you can block that off too,
yeah.
more the merrier.
I think people are gonna have
Should
to
I bring
reasonably
it to you
expect.
to draw?
Just when you have a big set of plans, I can keep, and I can draw it on there and scan it back down to them.
Yes.
Is it Mr. Chairman's okay if he
That's
comes up?
flattened out for you already.
Yeah, we can, how about we draw
Justin
it on
comes up?
this
Yeah.
one, and then I will send some.
Much improved over last.
Yeah,
That seemed to be the low.
I do like the 3-tier, that's always been my rule of thumb, 3-tier things.
Good recommendation, Bond.
So the final enclosing in here, it will be the dense hollies, right? With a mixture of the Gulf Lane.
Yes.
So let's see what you
For the
have.
charging of the, parking.
So you have that here, you have that here, it's just kind of wrapping it, kind of continuing it around.
Okay.
So,
But the most concerning area is here, leaving the gap right here.
bump this
I
out,
think so.
right?
Yeah. I was drawing it here for you. You probably can draw better.
I'll label them also. We have a charging station. That one will be blocked. How close you wanna get, so maybe that,
I think for
Yeah, you-
maintenance purposes, it may be a little bit tough to get these last two on the end, just because this
Yeah, you may,
stall needs access there.
you may not want that one there, but these 2 tiers, right in here, at least, to try and kind of just leave this corner open.
so
Yeah.
looking at this plan, we'll have to see how close they can get it to the.
I was gonna ask, was there a minimum distance between here and here?
Yeah, you need something for servicing.
To see the light gray under, I believe, is all of the underground.
Probably the
It's the company
pad,
cable.
yeah, it's probably the pad.
Yes, sir.
So you're not. So I think the closest we'll get is this.
Probably 2-tier
right
there.
here. I think it's your golden flame.
Yeah, dense hollies and golden flames.
Almost repeating that, the 2 rows along the back. Carry the, yeah.
That's- I will scan this to the GPD group and I can see exactly how close everything can get. And then if they can come up with something amenable, are you guys okay with me signing off on however close they can get the plants?
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
And also, I think, is this the circumference right here? 3 foot, 5 foot. So I guess Ken, saying how far apart you would like them, like 1 foot
They
or like for the branches, or I don't know, the
typically
trunk.
what they'll do is they'll go off of their planting details and they take whatever the nursery or the landscape architect says is best, and they don't typically like to stray from that.
Yeah.
But they'll put it as close together as they can.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes,
Then
with the,
you're-
with the dense hollies, we're good here. I was just thinking right here that these would need to be definitely tight where they're touching, just because if we only have 2 tiers here, we got the golden and the Stevenson hollies, the Stephen hollies.
You can put them as tight as possible within a recommendation from the landscape architect.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
generally what we refer to.
Yeah, because we definitely want them trying to blend together.
Sure.
Survivability.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I want to, you to think is that, you know, they will grow.
Right, we're
They will
talking
go
about
so-
maturity widths and
Okay.
stuff, so.
So the original or the initial planting should not be that tight.
No, they won't be that tight. There's no way you can have them that tight.
So here, what they've done is they have gotten the landscape architect to provide
What the
spacing.
maturity widths are and stuff like that,
Planting-
and where the spacing
planting,
should
minimum
be.
planting.
Yeah,
So I think, Jill, to your point, people are going to have to expect that when it's first planted, you're going to see the equipment.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
You're gonna
it's
have
gonna
to give
be
it
a
some
little
time to-
tweed, you know,
Yeah.
probably a few branches. But that's what,
on how much money you want
that's what the maturity of landscape is so beautiful.
mature
You can
tree
buy
and put
mature
it in,
trees.
but nobody wants to do
Well,
that,
they-
because that costs money.
survivability.
Even in the
Survivability.
6 to 7
Yeah.
months that we planted everything in Gaithersburg, I live in Bethesda, Maryland, right down the street from the site, so I charge here, once a week, and those have grown in pretty drastically in even half a year.
Oh,
So
And this has
think
been a
next
good
year
year
it'll
for
be-
it, too. Boy,
Yes,
I'll
sir.
tell you, I've had to trim 3 times this year already, and that's unusual.
So last month, one of the things they showed was, it was basically an exposed rack. It looks like this encloses it.
It's kind of like this.
like
That
that
one looks,
now?
that doesn't look as much, as
Last
detailed.
month,
If you
It
look in
was-
your packet, all your pictures should be in this month's packet.
Yeah, there's a rack in there somewhere. It's just a matter of finding it.
it was very, kind of just very, it was like tubular steel.
If you look on,
So it looks like you've addressed that, but
is it shown in one of these?
I think it's actually right here. That piece.
it's basically like, it's where basically this right here, where the wires came out of the ground, you had kind of this tubular square, steel with a control box on top.
That's our switch.
Here it
right
is.
there.
Okay.
Right there.
So we're wondering, was that, I guess if that's that, this box will cover that. If that's the, he called it like a board. It was like a square piece that all these things were mounted to.
Yeah, what you
Yeah,
do is,
so-
you just have these little rails with holes in them that they bolt it to. It's very rough looking. I mean, the cabinets are actually a little bit finer looking than those.
The cabinets are,
So I think in this
And that's what
location,
we really want to
hide
make
that as
sure
much
that
as
we
possible.
hide that as much as possible. So we would definitely want a tree, if we could, get
right.
close to
in
being
the middle.
centered right behind that,
Okay.
because that definitely will be the biggest eyesore out of all these
I think we
boxes.
could certainly make a notation to just make sure that we're centering some of the landscaping directly on that box, that it's fully hidden.
do you need to have, so this seems like the back end facing the Washington Street. Do you need to have that separation, or can you flip it around and back it up against this cabinet?
We do, there's a variance that you need from the point of where that's installed to where the switchgear is.
Electricity has its own behavior.
Yeah, we certainly try to aim to make, from an aesthetic standpoint, our footprint as small as possible.
Okay, cool. Then did you have any more concerns about that then, or?
No. That's my biggest concern, is to make sure, because like I said, this is the roughest looking item out of all of these, to make sure that that is covered.
So it looks like this, so it's like a panel box where it's mounted,
Yeah,
and it has a panel box, and it looks like the screening is gonna cover
yeah,
it.
it looks like they got two panel boxes, one type of meter box and a panel box.
I have a question that just came to mind, and I don't know if this is asking too much, but I think what would be neat is if we could incorporate some of the landscaping on that corner, the corner of Sheets. The same landscaping, maybe like, almost like an island of some of these same plants, like having the tall trees, having the boxwoods, having the
Gold flames.
gold flames on that corner, just to kind of incorporate it, because then as you're driving in, like, it kind of introduces you to those plants and Sheets and Tesla. And then when you're seeing that other area, it kind of like all blends together.
Is there like a symmetry, almost symmetry on either side of the entrance?
And not necessarily like in the same, obviously, the same amount, but just like a little bit at that corner.
Or the cross street
Mhm.
So I think that that's certainly something that we could consider, but it would be on Sheets. We've signed a lease agreement where we only have possession and control.
Your
of
lease
these
area?
premises right here.
But if Sheets gave you permission, would Tesla pay for that? Maybe?
It's not something that I can speak to right now.
Okay, but we could ask maybe if
We can
they would
certainly ask.
consider it.
It wouldn't, I guess what I'm saying is it wouldn't be on our property. We only have
Mhm.
possession and control of this premises. So technically
Yeah.
it would be Sheets' real estate.
So, yeah.
Mhm.
But it's something that we
So
could,
even if he did agree to plant it, it would be up to Sheets to maintain.
Mhm.
So I'm sure that's one
Oh,
of
you
the
were
biggest
talking over here.
concerns.
I thought you
Yeah.
were talking about
The
the other side.
corner.
Over here on
um,
the
Yes,
15 corner, not on the,
exactly.
okay.
Over there.
I thought you meant matching it on the other side of the entrance.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so Sheets would definitely want to be part of that because, like I said, it would be an onus of them to have to maintain.
Can we ask them? Do you
And
think,
then need
do you
to do
guys
that.
think that that would look nice though?
Just kind of making some symmetry, kind of match it. I think it'll be fine. I mean, there's such an open area out there right now.
Yeah.
We can
Um,
certainly do the ask. It'll come down to where their stormwater stuff is underground, where the VDOT easements are, the site distance, and
I think that's over
then,
here.
of course,
The stormwater's
between
way over
Tesla,
here.
Sheets, and
and a storm drain on
Over
that
here.
side.
Yeah, that was an issue, I think, initially.
I remember we had to move our footprint when we did the initial sidewalk.
right. So
Yeah, that
I
corner.
don't know how the plantings will then affect under. So.
But they need a site plan amendment as well to do the, revise their landscaping plan, or you think you could do it?
That can be done administratively. That portion of it.
GPD will just turn us around another kind of visual rendering after we take your guys' or the board's suggestions into consideration.
Well, hopefully this comes across as, without a doubt, we're excited to have you here. It's a pretty cool
Very
thing.
excited to be in the community. Thank you.
So, Chairman, I don't have any other
So we
comments.
can put the ask in. We'll see
Mhm.
what Tesla says back, what Sheets says, and we can go from there.
Okay, that sounds great. Just an idea. Thanks.
You can always ask, right?
That's right. So what state is this COA in then? Are we looking for approval tonight, or are we just continuing?
I'm comfortable moving it with the amendments noted.
Yes.
Any suggestion on the corner?
Yeah, I just
Because
think
I
that
don't think
would
that's
be,
necessary, right?
no, it's not necessary. I just think it would be pretty to kind of introduce that. And, you know, by Wegmans, how the landscaping is along, what is it, James Madison? No. 29, the landscaping along that road, it's like the whole way across. I just think it would be pretty to have, just to kind of introduce it before you get to that corner, and then it's just on that corner, you know, to kind
Makes
of
sense.
have it throughout would be pretty.
The push-pull you get is
Yeah, so.
visibility.
Certainly try to accommodate as much as we can.
Okay,
Some of the pushback I hear, I think it's great.
okay.
Sometimes the
So I'll
pushback,
talk to them.
oh, we're not going to see the Tesla charging stations, oh, we're not going to see Sheets, but you're not going to miss that canopy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of undermines that argument.
Will do. Thank you. Thank you so
Did you
much.
need this, Emily? I didn't know.
Yeah, I'll grab that from you
Okay.
after. So,
Thanks.
I will reach out to GPD group and have them address the landscaping that's marked on there, as well as the ask for off to the side to do additional landscaping, and what easements are there, stormwater, things like that. So if you guys want to see it again in September, we can do that. If you want to do a conditional, it's up to you guys.
I think we're good with the conditional, right? And the corner for the extra will be just a recommendation,
Okay,
since it's not really part of this COA.
okay.
I mean, it's kind of hard to constrain them to trying to do it when they don't have any control of that piece of land. Okay. So are you all set for this one, Bond?
Can I see that
You want this?
picture?
Okay.
Okay, I make a motion to approve ZP number 2018-035, the Tesla charging station, with the condition that they extend the western landscaping over to accommodate more of the Nellie Stevens trees, and additionally, closest to the parking spaces, that they add the dense holly and gold flame. And we have included a picture to show them with examples of what we would like, or what's necessary.
And we'd also recommend.
Oh, yeah. And we'd also like to recommend the same landscaping at the western corner along 55 and 15. Just to kind of incorporate that landscaping as you're driving in, so it's not just around the Tesla station, but it kind of introduces you to it as you're driving into town, just to make it more cohesive.
Okay, I got a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Last chance for discussions. Everyone good? Okay, we'll go for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Now we'll, I want to request to amend the agenda tonight. We have another COA that came in before it could be put into the package. I guess I'll start with a motion on putting this COA onto the agenda. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, anybody have any objections or discussions that they want to put into it? Okay, we'll go for vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 And you, Marshawn,
Was
didn't
aye.
hear you. Aye, okay. That gives you all the votes. So we'll go into the last COA that you want to introduce.
So the COA is for Prince William County Department of Parks and Recreation. They currently lease property at 14600 Washington Street, the QBE building. They maintain the baseball fields, the playground, and the front field there. So this application, I put 2 site plan images up there for you guys to share. So Ken and Marshawn, you should have one, and Con and Julia should have the other. So the red lines on the plan are the proposed vertical picket wood fence. It would be 48 inches tall, flat top, and it's intended to prevent the vehicle parking and athletic pickup drop-off along the shared driveway, which is also a fire lane beside the recreational area, so the kiss and ride, if you're familiar with the property. There is attached in the packet, the application that I gave you guys, additional scope of work and specifications on the 3rd page. Color would be natural or stained black. There would be 2 gates that would be in place for emergency vehicle access as well. So we have tonight with us Matt, correct? Matt. Okay, Matthew, here to talk about the proposal.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Board, for your time and for squeezing this in this afternoon. Appreciate it. Pretty simple request. We're looking to install approximately 550 linear feet of flat top vertical picket fence in keeping with one of your approved examples in your architectural standards booklet. Primarily, this is just a physical deterrent to keep athletes who are accessing the Diamond Field adjacent to the QBE Old Pace West building from being dropped off and making their way directly over to the sports field. So we've been informed by our landlord that this is a fire lane. We have parents parking along the side of the access road there, which creates a concern for not just, it's a one-way entrance and exit, kind of a U shape around the building. So there's a concern for emergency vehicles being able to access all sides of the facility and general traffic flow throughout the property. So this is a good faith effort that we've come up with in consultation with the property owner, our landlord in the situation, to try to just prevent that in addition to some signage on the site so that we can eliminate the concern going forward.
This is a tricky one. What were you going to say?
Well, there is an original fence around the parking lot area.
It's taken down.
It was taken down?
Yep, so there's no fencing that currently exists on the site. So originally, I believe the property owner, there was the fence around the parking lot, there was also a fence around the playground. All of it's been removed. Currently, the playground is shut down. There's orange fencing on it because it's not safe. So all other fencing on the property was removed because I believe it was the old wood, had maybe
Yeah.
top, middle, and
It's
bottom.
like a paddock.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it was like
Style, but it was-
similar to like a split rail, but
Yes.
just kind of a farm
Mm-hmm.
type of fence.
Yeah, he got approved is that what you're talking about? There was a COA that was approved 3 or 4 years ago
For the playground.
for the playground. It fenced the perimeter. I mean, it
Poles for lighting incorporated into the
Yeah.
fence.
had the fence all the way around the property,
I know, definitely around the
parking lot, and it was more of a, I call it a horse fence.
Yeah.
The black stained, 3-tier kind of picket,
Picket or
So-
paddock?
like a paddock fence,
Yeah.
kind of what you have in front of your
Wooden
house.
picket.
So that's what I wanted to ask you about, is that you typically see this vertical picket in a residential application, something like durability, versus most of the parks, like James Long Park and other parks, typically have that black,
3-board or 4-board
Yeah.
horizontal
Yeah.
fencing, sure.
is there,
That was actually one of the proposals
Okay.
that we gave to the landlord, the owner of the property. That design was rejected, basically with the understanding that it wasn't one of the approved examples in the architectural review board's examples.
Yeah, because we approved that fence last time because this fit into the parklands type of theme of the athletic fields. I'm surprised, I didn't even notice that it got torn down. I didn't realize it got torn down. I was hoping that it would just be an extension, that this could be just an extension to the existing fence that was
And-
there.
I could have misspoken. That one might have never been put up. There was one in old Google Street Views that you can see. There was an old fence around the playground. I'm not sure about the parking lot. He may have never put that part up.
no,
The-
when he bought the property, it was the wire fencing around the perimeter, that was taken out.
Yeah, that was taken
The
down.
playground, he put up the 3,
Yeah, because I
Horse
know there
fencing,
were
or
a
what do you
few
call it?
poles that were put in to hold the spotlights for the parking in
those were,
there.
that was a requirement because of the after hours.
Yeah.
He was serving the public after hours.
Right, and we let them blend that in with that fence. If that fence is still there, I'd rather see this kind of be an extension
I
of
agree with
that
Emily,
fence.
I don't think it ever went in.
I don't think it ever went in.
The fence around the playground went in because they never stained it.
Right, and it's been removed. It's gone.
That one's gone.
But it just seems like in this context, I mean, I don't see us prohibiting that, but I can see, I guess, looking at this, it says approved fence styles, picket style fences. But, I don't know, just kind of picket that, I understand what you're trying to achieve.
Because I do like, the reason we approved it last time was strictly because it did fall within the parkland look for, these fields being here. And that was the concept before. I don't know what your girls' opinions are.
So there's not a wire fence all the way down Blight Drive right now.
Nope, it's all
So
open
this isn't,
access.
this is not really accurate because that's not here, right?
Correct.
All that wire
That's
fence
an
is
older drawing.
Okay, Ooh, sorry. What I would propose if I was going to put up a fence around here would be to put a paddock fence, but I wouldn't just have it like this line that kind of just goes to nowhere. I would have the paddock fence go from either where the parking lot ends right before Cookies and Cream, and then have it like go all the way around, and I would do like a paddock fence. That's what I would do. I would put the paddock fence along Blight Drive and then over to, what is this other?
Are you totally engaging? that
That's what I
area,
would do.
or-
I would like have the paddock fence go this way. So it's just almost like fencing in the baseball area and then the field behind the baseball area, but not just kind of cutting by Cookies and Cream and then going straight back, because I just don't think that will look right. But having it all enclosed with the paddock fence, I think would be pretty, and it would also probably eliminate, if you did it over to this drive-through street behind Cookies and Cream, it would keep people from parking right there. That's what I would propose.
Yeah, if we did something like that, though, I definitely want some type of gates here, so at least any kids in the complexes back here
Yeah.
had some way to walk into it.
And also having that
make it more
emergency
in-
vehicle entrance.
Yeah, making it more invitable. I mean,
Accessible.
I'd at least want to have those two sides done. I don't know if this is really necessary, but if we do put
But do you
something
think
in
this
there,
would look right to just have it here and here, but not have it there?
I do have concerns about this enclosing the fence.
Yeah, I don't want it
Because the
fully
look of
enclosed.
the community is an
Inviting,
open,
yeah, you want to invite
you know,
Mhm.
people in.
walking the dogs, walking yourself with the kids, for 15, 20 minutes. And, and actually, they want to put a fence because, there is excessive parking over here. And
Safety.
this is a safety concern, but not this. This is not a safety concern.
I don't know if
But
you want
I
to
know-
come up and look at what we're doing, because I don't know if you can see it from back there.
I'm thinking about it,
Consistency's sake,
sure.
Sure, it makes sense.
I think-
Just another thought, I did notice on the plan for the Haymarket Park, which is located over here, you do have an alternative pedestrian access connecting the two properties across Blight Drive.
Yeah.
So that, just another thing to think about with changing
It
that
would-
portion. It's a pretty big scope change versus our initial intent. Understand from the aesthetic standpoint that it may be preferred.
Another thought I had, Bon, was that it just, having all these angles and not, what's the word I'm looking for? Doesn't complete itself. I've seen properties before where they'll have like a spite fence, but just something that separates the two. So to me, just kind of having a fence that kind of follows the line, goes out, is not a big deal. It's the fact that they're kind of running it around. A fence that's just a straight linear is fine. But why is it they're walling off Cookies and Cream, do you know?
Can't really speak to that.
To me, if you're trying to keep people off this road,
Just
just stopping it here seems to have your effect and not have to have, this seems to be the outlier. This right here is not objectionable. It's like a four corners, okay, it's just one of a square. Here you got like a five-sided square that makes it look
Yeah, I'm
like.
sorry, we could have transposed this over an aerial as well, which may have been a little more representative. In addition to the plat, there is a gravel parking area here, which I think was the intention to try and kind of eliminate that pass-through, cutting the corner
Okay.
across, and to provide a little bit more of extension, delineating between the lease areas from the Cookies and Cream tenant and
Okay, and you're trying to separate, I guess, patrons here from using the facilities?
Just a little bit of overlap, folks spilling out of this area into kind of the fly ball zone
Okay.
of the outfield for the baseball, softball area.
I don't like I don't like how the picket fence look is as much as I like
The paddock.
the paddock, because I like how the paddock is open and,
Paddock.
it doesn't create,
Defer to you on that. That's no problem.
yeah, I don't
Just, I
like,
think of picket, I think of a White House picket fence,
mhm.
more of a residential
Yeah.
sort of thing.
I think it's gonna
um,
be too,
I mean, I'm just thinking too, just maintenance, because they're gonna kick the pickets. Now, a paddock fence, kids will climb over
It's a
it.
little easier up and over, but it's only
Yeah.
4 feet high
Yeah.
anyways. Motivated 10-year-olds can get over that.
yeah.
And go over a
What
picket
about
fence.
if, instead of having it over here, can I show you
Sure.
just another idea? If you had the fence going just along
Yeah.
there,
along the path, follow the path of the driveway.
yeah.
That seems more symmetrical than, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. That seems more realistic, kind of makes sense, versus why is this random fence shooting out across the field, right?
Yeah,
What about
and
the
I mean,
problem
you
over
could
here?
even do just like right there with paddock and then right there with paddock, I don't know, just kind of creating like a little bit of a boundary if that's what their hope
Yeah,
was.
Following the.
Because I mean,
Yeah,
no matter
there's-
what,
there's some-
kids are still gonna wanna go over to the fields, I'm sure, to
There's
play.
some kind of utility storage, maintenance equipment, a couple of sea containers that are back on this corner. So it's an advantage to the Parks Department to have a physical barrier there, just to also keep park patrons kind of navigate or working their way into that area. So yeah, if we could find a way to still at least extend a little bit farther around there, but I think.
What if we,
Yeah,
what if we did that, like around them?
Sure.
We'd have to have a gate, because Sean has all his,
There's a lot tucked away back in there.
there's a lot.
Oh, okay.
You'd have to drive all the way this way. So your suggestion is, start here, go around.
I don't even, know
Well-
I guess if it has to be, that's fine. With the paddock, it won't seem as closed off.
And then follow the curvature of the
Mhm.
parking lot, and then go this way, or just kind of,
I mean, if you think that it can't be closed this way, I mean, I would like to follow like, kind of like the driveway idea, but, I mean, I don't think it would be that bad as long as it's the paddock style. But I would like it to follow this, because I just feel like it would look more natural than if it's just like,
visually, it kind of makes
Yeah.
sense versus, when I first saw it, it just seemed very hard and just kind of that. So,
and would the paddock be natural? Is that what this was, right?
Or painted a dark
stain,
stain, whatever the
Yeah,
farm
our-
black or whatever that farm black thing
Our
is.
spec
or-
for the vertical picket was pressure treated Southern Yellow Pine, either natural or seasoned and then stained black. A lot of the 4-board, 3-board fences are just the stained black.
Yeah, like
I think a lot of
farm-
times they're actually not a pressure treated product that go up, but they are stained
Yeah,
usually.
similar to
for-
like a creosote or
Exactly,
something.
it's a pretty
Natural
aggressive.
light, I'm thinking, because the poles at Cookies and Cream that have the lights and the light poles are all
They're all
natural.
natural.
Yeah, or pressure treated, but
Sure,
natural,
yeah.
not stained.
do we care if it's 3-board or 4-board?
I don't, either way is,
If 4-board's up or 3-board?
Yeah. For 48 inches tall, I think 4-board would work fine. But
Or 3-board, I don't really,
I think
I
it's-
I don't
yeah,
have a preference either way.
maybe a little easier to scoot under or through at that point. Trying to think what else the biggest opening.
I feel like they're gonna get over it if they
Oh,
really
yeah,
want
of
to,
course,
right?
Oh, yeah.
You
they
put
should
a
just
4th
climb
one
and
on,
put
you
the
put the,
ladder
this sounds terrible.
Huh?
Not
Those
part
are
of our
just,
criteria, but if you put the
steps.
4th board on, you're gonna
Climb
use
up
that as a
over.
stopping.
That's your
Yeah.
step, sure, yeah, it's gonna go over.
And then mowing, I think if you don't have that bottom board, you can easily mow around it,
That's true.
but.
So 3 might be better for maintenance
Think so.
than landscaping.
3-board paddock fence,
But,
40 inches high.
We don't need to specify it. As long as it's a paddock fence, we're happy, right? 3 or 4, whatever fits, right?
I think
Or did
3.
you want to tighten it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
4 8 inches? That's the height?
48, yeah.
Or is that the standard height for paddock? Because it might be different than the picket, because picket's probably shorter.
I think they may run a little higher
Yeah.
for some of those more expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
like that. I'd have to pull spec, but, I mean, we can get it built. If we went any higher than that, I think we would want to go 4 board, otherwise we would really end up with some larger gaps in between.
Yeah.
But,
What do you have on yours?
3.
3?
maybe a full 56 inches.
I think the 3 and not making it too high, you know?
Google tells me it's 54 to 60 inches.
Okay,
Field fences.
okay, so,
Do we want to do a maximum, not to exceed, and just leave it at their discretion?
Yeah.
yeah. So, how many feet, okay, so wait, the picket one was 48.
And then I think you're looking at
That'd
an
be 4.5
additional
as
foot
opposed to 4 feet, 4.5
if you go with the full
Okay,
horse
that's fine.
fence.
Additional foot in height?
Yeah, so 5 feet.
Do we need to specify
Not to exceed.
not
5
to
feet.
exceed 5 feet?
5 feet.
That gives you, does that give you some
But, yeah,
flexibility?
You can give us a preferred minimum height too with that. That would be helpful.
Okay.
Between 48 and 60 inches? That's 5 feet away. So you're smarter than a first grader, right?
Calculate it up.
Does anybody have a highlighter? Because maybe I could highlight this drawing for him. Thank you. Do you prefer that open, right?
And,
Is the
Okay. So
5
just
foot
there?
fence gonna,
and I guess to be thorough,
is a
we
5
need to
foot
spec
fence gonna look ridiculous?
gates.
It's going to look what?
Is it gonna look silly with like how tall it is? If it's 5 feet? Not to throw a wrench in the discussion. So, hold on, let me.
We can always set a minimum too, and I think
54 was the minimum, right?
Take my shoes off. So I'm 5'4", so I mean that fence is up to,
Mine is not that tall.
yeah, I didn't think, yours is more yay?
The tallest is definitely like, yeah, I think.
48.
So maybe
fine.
that's like, what, 30, 48, 42?
48.
Let's say 48, just
I think
because that was
48
the
would be more
picket.
like my shoulder,
I think that should be the minimum then.
Okay.
not hopping
48
in.
I mean, I'm sorry, the
42.
maximum is 48,
Okay, do
which
like
is 4 feet.
I was going higher just because if people can't figure out how to build a 3-board paddock fence with 48 inches, but I think you can figure it out, so.
Okay.
So if you do 48 inches first along top rails, and then just evenly space it down, you should be fine. Now, only other question I have is, by not closing this gap here, was the concern also that people were going to park back here and walk around? Where you're trying to direct everyone to pick up and drop off here?
We do have this closing all the way down.
Oh, it does go all the way across?
Yeah. But,
Okay.
I guess what we need to do is, you know, what kind of access do you want in this? We got the emergency access, I'm assuming it could be anywhere along here, because this is all gravel, right? Or drivable
You
by
can drive
Sean's
tractors on the-
permits
you
and
can
stuff,
drive-
yeah.
Because they can park up here and drive around, or they can.
But, like, do we need any type of gates for access for people to come into here, or are we totally trying to block this off from people to walk along this
My
leg?
understanding is that we're trying to be as
Okay.
much of a hindrance as possible.
So this emergency vehicle access, I honestly feel like you could just leave it open.
Yeah,
Like have the
unless you
fence
really wanted to
stop and
gate it,
have the
but-
fence stop, because if we were to put a gate, it would probably, we would want it to be like wooden and like, you know? So I feel like just having that opening for a car to get through, I don't know, is that gonna allow people to come
I'm a
through?
little concerned about emergency vehicles being able to weave their way through kind of the maintenance yard side of the property.
So maybe putting the opening here, but then people can walk through.
Yeah, and they do a pretty good job. You can do a double hump gate with a 4-board or a 3-board design.
Okay.
Maybe there's a diagonal picket
Sure.
for kind of a tensioning to keep it from sagging over time, or just a tensioning
So they would
wire
put
that would be
wood.
added, but it would be the same product, same
Okay,
So gate to
It
match
seems pretty clean.
the fence style.
okay.
Okay, were you asking to move it, or just leave it at their discretion where to put it?
At their discretion,
Their
fine
discretion.
with me.
Yeah.
And we can loop in fire and rescue and get their input on what they
Yeah.
would prefer for that.
I read in the write-up they do the Knox box.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess
We'll
it allows
provide-
them to get
we'll
through the
provide
fence.
key access so that they can get in as they need to.
Is that how that works? Have you heard of these before? Like it's the Knox box where they have a universal key,
Exactly.
where you can open that box, get the key out, and open it up. I thought it,
Realtor box, eh?
I always thought it was like a Knox box where you actually pushed on it with the engine and it broke it open, but that would have been too cool.
Secure, kind of safe, for lack of a better word, that all is standard to the emergency crews in the area. So it's a good product.
Cool.
Great.
Thanks
I
for
should
your,
pass that along. What's the follow-up step as far as? what
So
gets
I'll make a
communicated back to
motion
us?
with the conditions, and that way, if you guys are, if they're okay with it, they can move forward with it, right?
Yeah, you'll work with, I guess, Emily and,
Can I just snap a quick picture of your?
And you can take this with you probably, or Emily can make a copy.
Yes.
Okay.
Or we have a second one, I can mark them up.
Okay.
Forward.
here's your
Are we ready to make, is it okay if I make a motion? Okay. I make a motion to approve zoning permit number 2018-043 with the conditions that they follow the drawn guideline that we will be giving them that demonstrates a 48-inch maximum height natural paddock fence. Do I need,
paddock fence.
3-board paddock fence. They can decide where their emergency vehicle access gate is based on their conversation with the emergency personnel. And I think that the image would best describe the location.
And the gate to match the materials of the fence.
The gate should match the materials of the fence as well. Anything else?
sounds good.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Last chance for discussion. Always like to throw that in. Nobody ever throws any feedback at me, though. Okay, all for, in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're good to go. Okay, we're running late here, later than normal. So we go on to agenda item 6, new business. Do we have any new business?
Currently, I'm still working on all of the letters for the blight ordinance that I've been sending out. So soon you will have new business, some new applications will be in front of you. We have discussed this before, but we will be having an application for the properties across the street. It's gonna be 2 separate applications, one for the historic, 3 for the historic buildings. There are 3 historic ones on the property. And then there will be another application for all the other structures. They do wish to proceed with demolition applications, so I'm working with them on all the research, the structural engineers' reports, the historic documentation, so everything we need, but that will be coming before you soon. So if you have any questions in the meantime, if you want to learn more about it, if you have some big concerns, you have something you specifically want to be addressed, let me know so that I can try to have all that in that application, in the report for you. That's about all the new business that I have. Give me 1 second, I'm trying to mock this up for him to take.
So she does that. One of the things I talked to Emily about was we always seem to be reactive versus proactive. So like especially with across the street is before a lot of time and resources are put into it. I mean, I used to follow Emily's kind of mantras that you have all the information necessary to submit your application, but submitting demolition for everything, does it make sense to try to come in first and say, what is your vision? What is you're trying to do? What are some of the opportunities versus having to vote up and down a particular demolition permit? Does that make sense? So there's, you're kind of all on the same page when they come in for it. versus having to kind of react to each one. And discuss opportunity. They may not be aware of opportunities or other, I think Emily's put forward what the position of the ARB has been before, which is a lot of the interior buildings aren't of a particular, aren't identified in the comp plan as contributing resources, but that the priority has been to look at the general's house, the house on the corner, and the house behind.
And one other thing, kind of to go off of that, I know we previously talked in meetings when our old board was still with us, and we talked about would we do more of an administrative approval just for Big Fred and those shed structures behind, and then the one house without a roof. So maybe you guys could give that some thought. We could come back to it, but if it's something you're willing to act on tonight, to give me the administrative approval just for certain structures, that could also be a proactive approach, kind of how
Yeah.
Marchant was discussing it.
I definitely would personally give you approval to approve them for demolition for the garage, Big Fred's garage, the stone house that has no roof, not the general's house, not the, well, you have the list of the ones that were
Right.
most important
So
to us to
It
save.
would exclude the three.
Mhm.
It would be just those little sheds. One's currently actually condemned. The fire marshals came in and shut it down.
What about the tax place?
Shelter.
that
No,
still-
that would be something separate, different
Okay.
application. There, since it wouldn't be any structure that there's a current business
Okay.
in, and it would not be any historic structure. It would literally be Big Fred straight back.
Gotcha.
So there's some lean-to sheds and the house with no roof.
Mm-hmm. I give you approval for all of those.
I would like to, Big Fred, I think, has a lot of history behind it. I'd like to request that they tear it down in phases, like the front face of it, the brick face, because under there is what the original face was, and I'd love to get that stuff documented.
Oh, that's a
Okay.
good idea.
I don't know that I'm comfortable with necessarily saying tonight to go to do it, although I brought it up. But I think just setting the I like the way they do it in phases. I don't know that, my concern before was always that people, the current owner and some of the folks that have come in over time just want to do scorched earth. I don't think that's appropriate. And you, once it's gone, it's gone.
Those,
But-
though,
What's that?
those,
But,
Yeah.
so hear me out. So nonetheless, I think a phased approach that, because people even remember, people always talk about, oh, those old buildings, I said, but you remember them. So I think there's a way to incrementally address the blight on that property. Those properties you just discussed, I think, are the most. So I think the idea would be is to give that, your owner saying, there, you have general support, submit your applications, you're likely to get out of the committee in one night with that demolition permit. Does that make sense? There's a likelihood that we would look at those, but we would look at, my suggestion was always taking photographs of them, photo documentation, any write-ups or studies that are done, have those available, or, documentation as it's taken apart.
But like for the Big Fred, you would have to kind of specify the way you tear this down, because you just can't level it. Take that face off to get to the original, so we can at least document what the original looks like, or looked like then, as well to how it is now, what remnants was left.
How does that, how would you, I'm sorry, I better ask what you were thinking with, when you're saying administratively, if we were to give you that guidance, how would that work?
So if they come and say, Emily, I want to tear down the brown shed that's right outside of the dumpster, then I don't have to bring it to you guys. If they say, I want to tear down all the additions to the back of Big Fred, they don't have to come before the board, the house with no roof. So we can set conditions on it.
Okay.
That everything be photo documented up to the standards per our guidelines. We can say that Big Fred be left for later, that it's torn down in a way that we can peel back the layers and take pictures, things like that. But I don't know, because they'll also want to make sure it's financially feasible for them. They probably won't come in and tear anything down until they have enough of it that it's worth bringing a crew in to pay them, so they're not coming out 10 different times for each structure. So I was just trying to think of, you know, how can we be proactive? They're working with us to address the blight. This is our, you know, second main block in town across from us. You know, maybe we could really,
Like highlight
way,
the ones
throw
that we
them.
know
right.
are okay to get rid of.
Because I think, from what I've heard from the interested parties, the developer who's working on the plans, they want to be here. They want to see themselves in town. They have a good idea. And I don't want to scare them off. I don't want them to get frustrated.
That's the thing. It's like,
Right.
if they are thinking about investing in the property, but they think, well, what happens if we buy this and they don't let us take it down? And like, how long is that process gonna take? When for some of them, like, I don't know, I mean, we could definitely make a vote on the buildings, but for some of them, they're already falling to the ground. So it's like, we might as well say, if we did give her the administrative ability to say, yes, that is one of the buildings that we are allowing to be demolished ahead of time, then they might say like, okay, well then we will move forward with our plan.
Right.
Versus them investing and hoping that we approve it, which for some of the buildings, we won't approve a demolition. So I do understand that side of it.
Or at least a hybrid on it, right? There are certain pieces of the building where we would allow them to get rid of immediately, but the main structure would need a full COA.
Because we want to.
Because we want that main structure, right?
I guess what I'm looking at is, without a concept of what they're looking at, to me, to her point, taking those other buildings down, that's a good faith thing. We'll go ahead and move forward. I'm comfortable without seeing a redevelopment plan for the property.
Yeah, me too.
What I talked to Emily about before is always, all the development plans I ever saw, that back corner where the Butler House is on the corner of Payne Lane, that was always a leftover space. It was a grassy knoll. It was a 1 or 2 parking spaces.
No, I love that house.
So that one seemed, of all the plans, that house didn't seem to take away from their ROI, didn't take away from their square footage. So the one on the corner, I mean, any building, as you probably well know, any building, put enough time and resources into it, you can fix it. But I think we have to be realistic about if we want to encourage investment. So that's what I'm saying. If we say without a concept, it makes sense to go in. If we understand your concept, maybe there is opportunities like the Butler House. You're tired of hearing me this example. One example I always threw around was doing a condo space. Cut that off as a condo space, give it to an owner, say you have a year we're going to waive your site plan requirement, we're going to waive your parking, but we'll give you 18 months or 12 months to make a go of it, and anything you can either keep it or you can sell it and make all the profits from it. Owner doesn't have to accept the responsibility for it. They have an end date so that blighted property is not taken away from their new nice new development, but it's a win-win. So that ability to engage those developers ahead of time before they put a lot of effort going the wrong way. That's why I'd asked Emily, was it possible to meet with them ahead of time?
But, so that house, obviously, that's on our list, I think, of houses to save.
The three houses are the one on the corner, the Gossam House, and the Butler House. I forget what it's called in the plan. Those two are listed as specifically as contributing resources in our guidelines.
Yeah.
The General's House isn't specifically listed there, although it's been generally recognized as one to look at trying to reincorporate into
Yeah.
the.
We made a list at one of our ARB meetings a couple months ago, maybe 3 months ago. We made a list of the buildings that, in order of which we would want to invest in if we had to
On that corner?
in town, and that
Oh, in
included
town,
that,
okay.
included that property.
All three of those?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
I apologize, I wasn't
No,
aware of that.
I know, it's okay. But could we maybe talk about the ones that like aren't on that list that are in really bad shape? I think that's what Emily's asking for, like for permission for those. Do you guys feel comfortable, like the stone house without a roof on Payne Lane?
Yeah.
I also
please drop that as quick as possible.
There's-
It's a safety issue.
I also wanted to point out that the one on the corner is not actually in our contributing resources list. I came across
It's
this.
the Butler House in the back or the one on the,
The one on the corner that's been posted,
Gospel.
literally right here with the.
Not on the front, but the back one, the
The
Payne
back
and
one is.
front
Jefferson.
one.
Okay,
So if you have your guidelines, if you'll look with me, maybe it was mislabeled, misaddressed, I don't know. Cause you go from the old bank building and then you jump to the old post office, which is here. I don't know what the Russ Pickett house was though.
I think the Rust,
I think the Russ Pickett house has been taken down. So that one has an address of 15001 Washington Street, and I didn't see it listed, so we need to,
I can help you with that.
okay.
They've gone by several different names. Remember those packets I gave you with the surveys in them? Those list them by different names as well. Like the way the lot lines work, some of those in the back actually, I think, have Washington Street addresses, don't have Payne. I don't think any of those properties have a Payne Lane address. They either all have Jefferson, Fayette, and Washington. But I can sit down with you and,
Yeah, so the only one I saw on here was 6706 Jefferson Street, which is the Gotham house, which is what you're referring to, I believe is the Butler
House, okay. 6712 Baker Bean, that's not, okay. You have Masonic Lodge right next door.
So really, yeah, just as Mond was mentioning, just looking for for you guys, if you're willing and want to give me the ability to approve these smaller structures that are in bad shape and falling down. And we can list through them, I can grab a map, we can circle them, make it very specific, but,
Are you guys willing to knock that out tonight? I know I'm
I think
extending the
it would-
meeting.
yeah, it would be a good.
I'm willing
faith
to do
effort
at
on our
least
part.
those, what did you say?
I was saying, I think it would be a good faith effort on the town's part to really help work with.
That way we can move forward, because the only way, I mean, the one thing that comes up over and over again, and I'm sure with everybody that is on this board, when you talk to people in town, or even on social media, people are always saying like, all of the rundown buildings in Haymarket. And so this is like one way that we can like move forward, saying like, we're gonna do our very best to preserve the ones that have historic value, and that we're going to allow the other ones to be eliminated or demolished, you know?
Correct. I think there's two ways to look at this list. I think this lists them as our historic structures that are listed by name. The ordinance also, unless it's changed, says anything over 50 years old is considered a historic structure. So I think if we're worried about arguing that those three buildings aren't all three listed on this table, I think they're still within the ordinance to say, because of they're over 50 years old and their history, that they're still considered a contributing resource. But that's just more of if we get pushback to say, well, where do you list these? Well, we list them here, and they're also over 50 years old. Does it still say 50, Emily, do you remember?
Yes.
Still 50, okay. So I'm quickly approaching historic structure status.
I'm already over.
So if you guys want to take action on it, I'll bring the map up, we can circle them together and go through it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Okay.
But do we want to, when doing this, I mean, is it setting kind of the quid pro quo that, okay, owner, we're working with you, but we also would like you to come back and start talking about, do you think that's unreasonable?
Well, they're always gonna come to us with their architectural plans.
And I think maybe something to consider is, would you rather them take it down and not come to you, or never take it down at all? I don't know.
Well, the third option to me is, let's work with you to figure out how you can make it work.
Right.
But the hard thing is that with some of them, they don't want to invest in it because they don't think we're going to let them take it down.
Right. So do we want to put the catch on it? But
That this one, yes, this one already has approval to be demolished.
and I don't think they're gonna scare away from this property. I've met with them now twice in pre-application meetings. They are very serious about it. So I can't see them leaving, but never say never here.
But if we know we're going to approve some of them, I feel like we should just,
I've always advertised this ARB as a reasonable, proactive, kind of collaborative sort of body. So I think the message is, we want to work collaborative with you. Scorched earth I think scorched earth is a problematic. In other words, expecting that all the buildings would come down. We would first like the opportunity to talk to you about what opportunities. There may be other opportunities not known to us that if they wanted to, like my example of the Butler House in the back, we may have, if we put the word out, we may get people that want to help them and they can, see
but
what I'm
we're
saying?
not going to approve, we wouldn't approve a demolishing of that one.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, if she was to say, do I have administrative approval to take down the stone house without a roof? We could say today, yes.
Oh, yeah.
We give you administrative approval to that. That's all she's saying,
Okay.
right? You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I do.
I'm
I
not
just-
saying like,
yeah.
oh, we're gonna give you the whole property. No, but just like the sheds, that house, and then the garage with the condition that they work with us through the demolition process to make sure that we can take photographs and all of that.
So let's say this back to
Well,
you.
we identify the houses that we, or the buildings that we do want to get some type of a documentation.
Yes,
But it could be torn down because it's a yes tear down. It's
Yes.
just, we want some.
I'm going to belabor this a little more so that, I think when you always, every time you submit a demolition permit, you remove the opportunity. We had this kind of happen with the firehouse. It was a yes or no. If we can start from the position of, hey, we'll get through this, but we'd like to talk to you about opportunities to not have you come in with a demolition permit and be that the starting of the conversation. Because it sounds like they want to come in and take down the Butler House, the Gotham House, and another one in a later phase. So we want to start from okay. We're getting off topic, sorry.
I just want to say, yes, I think you are correct in that they do want to come in for those applications, but that is based on the structural engineer reports that they have done. So
Okay.
they've already invested a good amount of money just getting people out here to inspect everything. They've hired engineers, so they're very serious about it. I think this helps them, I think we're all saying the same thing.
Okay.
I really do. I think Bond and you were saying the
Okay.
same thing, but
but with some, I will not approve that Butler house personally to be demolished. I definitely would like that to be saved, even if they say it's not structurally sound. My parents' house was not structurally sound, and they had a structural engineer stabilize it. So I'm saying like, but we could at least say yes to the ones that we know.
Oh, yeah, I'm not challenging that at all. I'm just thinking another step down. We have these two buildings as perfect examples where both were structurally unsound.
Yeah,
But we made the time and the investment.
yes.
And that's what I'm saying with these guys. If the expectation is they filed these structural reports, anyway,
Yeah,
let's go ahead and mark them.
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you for, you can tell I'm passionate about that.
No, and I understand what you're saying. If, with certain ones, no, like,
Yeah.
just because they're not,
Exactly.
sound safe, we're not gonna say, yes, you can just demolish it. I completely agree.
Tell you what, though, we got to do something with the general kernel house, whatever you want to call it,
Just gotta-
because there's a lot of vegetation starting to grow out of it, and that's going to do nothing but tear it up.
That one, you just gotta tear all those additions off,
Yeah.
tear the porch off. Anyway, I'm sorry, we got sidetracked.
Let's do
okay,
it.
so let's, just for reference here, since we have a new member,
Saving this house.
let me start on, let's
Saving
place
this
this on the
house.
map for Julia. Okay, Julia, we're right here in this building, 15000 Washington Street. So directly across and out our front door is Big Fred's, the brick building. Behind it are a bunch of shed, lean-tos, additions that have been added. Back here on Payne Lane, small little road here, there's a home that has no roof left, so we're looking at that one as well. And those were the only ones I was gonna ask for approval tonight.
There's a shed right next to it, the stone house.
Yes, there's a brown shed right next to it.
Yep.
The other ones, if you want to discuss it, I think it's a very sensitive matter because there are tenants in them, would be this one and this one. I think we should wait and only address the ones that are empty with no tenants that are behind Big Fred.
I agree. For the administrative one,
Yeah,
yes,
for
I
that.
agree.
And
But
then
I
just,
do want to include your comments and conditions for
Yes.
what's important to you
So,
about Big Fred.
4 structures. Of the 4 structures, Big Fred, just be deliberate in removing the facade and take photo documentation. The other 3, just take kind of
'Cause I,
photos of the perimeter and
And maybe
take-
if they could, be in communications with the town about
Yes.
when the demolition's gonna be
Yes.
and, really working with you and,
And I think
with
if-
Ken to make sure that, and the rest of the board, just to make sure pictures and everything that you want are taken, and if anything could be saved to the museum or,
yeah, because I do think we have an original picture of Big Fred in the old condition, right? Tearing the brick off, you could at least see what condition it's in now and just
it's
do a
actually
comparison.
pulling off. If
Yeah.
you go and stand on the side, you can see it
It's
pulling
already,
off.
it's already.
listing
Yeah.
off the front. What's unusual, I've been in that building, was talk about architectural salvage. I think there's some architectural salvage if someone wanted to come grab it. There's the old wood posts. They have the old, what do you call it, the dowel,
Yeah, the pins.
the
yeah.
pins.
that's cool.
So, I mean, if someone
Yeah.
wanted to, there's architectural salvage in there that if someone, but I don't know that they want the liability. The stone house, that stone was actually quarried off Bull Run Mountain.
I would love to get some of
But
this
we
done.
have, yeah, maybe if you can
anybody-
ask if it's safe, would they be open to people kind of, and then you always have your Civil War buffs that want to come out and do stuff.
Metal detecting.
Metal detector.
We have other buildings that have that stone on it, so one thought was to take the stone off of that house and put it out here on the corner as part of our,
Landscaping?
on the
or-
corner, we have a seating bench.
Oh,
Use that as kind of the pavers to do that. But that's not part of this discussion, that's a.
but yeah, say, yes.
Thanks, Emily. I know thank you guys for bringing this up at the late hour.
Yeah, so I think if you guys want to make a motion to give me that ability, but add with it your conditions, you want it documented, you want it taken down in phases, Big Fred, that is. And then with like Marchant was just saying, the stone on the other house, and then that way I'll write it all up, I will present them the COA for it and have, here are all of our conditions, and this is what we can kind of do for you.
Okay,
And I will also refer them back to this meeting so they can watch and listen and hear the other comments that were made about the other structures.
so we're making a motion to give you administrative, privileges or,
Authority,
Okay.
administrative authority to
Okay.
approve demolition applications for, and then if you want to simply state it, there are tiny numbers on that map that I left with you. Or if you want to say Big Fred and the shed, lean-to structures behind it, including the brown shed. And then if you want to specifically mention the home on Payne Lane with no roof. But I think that has a house number
yeah,
attached to it.
15010?
Yes.
So it's the zoning administrator to act on behalf of the ARB
Mm-hmm.
to prepare and approve demolition or certificates of appropriateness for demolition.
I think you
Of the
should
sh-
make the motion.
Can we try to make it? Okay.
Yeah. Do you need this paper?
Sure. Oh my God. This is,
Sorry, it's very small.
it is, and I'm just getting old because I have to go like this. Okay. I make a motion to give the zoning administrator the authority to act on behalf of the Architectural Review Board to complete and approve certificates of appropriateness for demolition of the following, 2, 3, 4. Following 4 structures. And there's a pen writing over this, so I can't see it. Do you have another map?
15010 Payne Lane. 15010 Payne Lane.
15011 Washington Street, otherwise known as Big Fred's. The lean-to and former auto sales offices behind Big Fred. And the shed adjacent to, was it 15010 Payne Lane? With the condition that there be photo documentation prior to demolition of the exterior and any interior photos as might be safe to take. And with Big Fred's, that the facade be taken off in phases, and photo documentation of each phase of that demolition. And also asking the owner's permission to potentially salvage any materials by either the town or the public for other projects.
And if I could add that they communicate with the town planner and ARB before and during the demolition, just so that we know when it's going to be taking place, so that we can assist, if possible, with the photographing of the phases.
Okay.
Anything else that you wanted to add?
That's good.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you, and thanks, Emily, for indulging me. I talk about this a lot.
Okay. So we got a motion by Marchant with a little addition by Bond, which you're,
I accept the friendly amendment.
the friendly amendment.
Oh, sorry.
So now I need a second for this motion.
I second the motion.
We got a motion and second. No discussion required, I'm sure. Let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're good.
Okay.
You now have the power.
Yes, yes. One other new business thing. So we have been discussing trying to reactivate our town museum in a way that we can get people in there on a weekly, monthly basis, so we have more foot traffic in there. So one thing we're looking at is doing arts out of the museum. We are trying to come up with a name. We don't need to decide this tonight. I'm gonna toss out an idea. If you guys like it, you wanna send me forth to town council for final approval on the name, that's awesome. We were thinking simply the arts at the Haymarket Museum, something just simple, to the point, but it will not take away from the fact that it is a Haymarket Museum. The main sign will stay. The only addition we'll have, there's 2 brackets on the bottom of the sign right now, and we would just, together with you guys, I would come up with a nice logo that would go on this little sign, and then it would hang on a little bracket. But if you guys want time to think about it, sleep
The
on
sign
it.
is good. I don't know about the title to use.
Okay.
What is this? Is it going to be like an art class or?
No, so it'll be a spot for local artists to come and use it as their gallery space, show their work. So at Haymarket Day, we're starting with 3 artists to do a grand opening of sense. So they'll all be in there. And then from there on out, we have one person lined up for an 8-week stint. And then after her, she's going to help us book 6 artists per year.
Mhm.
And then at the Christmas time, we're gonna look at opening it to do more of a Christmas market, so selling art that is related to all the different holidays, and have that something that is each weekend during that season.
The one woman that was in there, did she do okay? Was that more of an exhibition? Was she selling, or?
She was more showing.
Okay.
She had very, very limited time that she could be there, so it was very short periods on the weekends. So that one, it didn't turn out quite how we expected it, but I think there were a couple things that we definitely learned from it. Advertising needed to be a lot better. So what we're doing is putting it back on the artists now to advertise, get their,
Social
customers
media
in
and all
there, put it out there. Shelley invited the Center of the Arts to come over and speak with us, so they gave us a lot of really good ideas. So we're hoping in the new year that it'll really be an active
space and fun.
Yeah, we have that patio that we don't use that often, that beautiful
Yeah.
patio out back. It'd be great.
So one thing
Use
they
that as
rec-
part of the gallery space.
Yeah, one thing they recommended is every time you have a new artist come in or on the weekends, like make it a little event. So the artist would then, it would be up to them to make it a little event, make it something fun for opening night, closing night, things like that.
Cool.
So we're working on all sorts of fun stuff, drawing up a lot of kind of agreements, things like that, the plans for it, but we're trying to nail down a name so going forward it kind of can start branding itself.
Arts in the market. Hey. Gotcha.
It's not bad. Not bad at all. Because the other ones we came up with were the art space at the Haymarket Museum, art house at the Haymarket Museum, the art studio. So some of the ladies we were talking with, they wanted to try to brand it as a place so that it could be a quick drop of, I'm going to the art house, I'm going to the studio. But we don't want it to lose the Haymarket Museum aspect of it. Because I think our history comes first and foremost.
Like,
So
that's a good idea.
we can definitely.
Exhibitions at the museum?
What was that?
Exhibitions at the museum? Just something simple like that. It actually says what it's doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, the arts at the museum, I didn't really understand what was going on with that one.
Okay.
Exhibitions at the museum. Yeah, all kinds of play words.
Yeah. The
So-
museum, gallery.
Market Museum of the Arts.
I like that too. So all you need from us tonight is just the blessing on
The idea, or what are we looking at?
the signage. You're wanting to add the,
More the name, but if you guys aren't ready, we can all revisit name.
Okay.
So we can wait on that.
Yeah, I doubt we're ready with a name unless we're, my mindset definitely can't come up with anything unique or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Send it. If you come up with anything that you wanna. Yeah.
cool.
Okay.
okay.
My kids would probably want to throw in there that one. So.
That's all I have for new business. I don't have any old business. The only thing we kind of had was Fayette Street, but we took care of that, the amendment. Town planner update, I think we've gone through most of that I had. So,
Okay.
since we don't have a
No
planning
planning commission, so we
commission
don't have to worry
member,
about that.
I can provide an update. We now have a full planning commission. Town council appointed 2 new members, Nick Polari and Ayush Corral. So on Monday night, hopefully one of my 5 will volunteer themselves to be your liaison, and you guys will too be a full board. So that is what I'm hoping for. They're currently working on the site plans for the 3 single-family homes on Fayette Street. Monday night, we're gonna look at an action plan for the park and how we wanna start working towards our master plan. Also, setting up a timeline for when we're gonna start addressing our comp plan. So since we have a full board finally, I think we'll get a lot done in this coming new year. That's about it for planning commission.
Okay. Yeah, actually missing the line item for, I guess, town committee update, right?
Town council.
Council update,
So we had our meeting last Monday, August 6th, and the major topic was the Crossroads Village Center that is going to be built at 15150 Washington Street. And the town council approved was the hotel a special use permit?
The height of it.
The height of the hotel maximum. We also approved the townhouse plan. We tabled the drive-up restaurants for next meeting. We need a little bit more information, and I'm pretty sure that the council is still not quite sure which way they're going to go on that. They also, I think we denied the car repair shop. So they're going to have to come back with a different idea for that space. So some of the plan is moving forward, and then some of it was tabled for the next meeting, and we were here, I think, until 12:30 a.m. So I think it's a good idea that we tabled it and didn't make any other decisions without, thinking on it a little bit further and getting a little bit more information. But a lot of members of our community came and voiced their concerns, and so it was definitely a tougher meeting. That is your update.
And a long meeting.
And a long meeting.
That's typical of my meetings in Loudon.
Okay.
Is it?
Unfortunately.
Anybody have any questions for Bond? Or?
No, congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that leaves one more agenda item.
Adjourn?
No movements for adjournment? Yeah. Who wants to move for that one?
Oh,
Okay,
I'm
I
looking
guess,
at the old one.
okay, I guess I will. I move to adjourn.
I second the motion.
And a second, everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Let's adjourn. First time I've ever used that.
I was
I didn't know what I was doing out here. I don't think I've ever seen it out here.